Hey everyone, I'm Els and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a little while and this video is 9 days overdue and those are the books that I read in July, and it's been so long since I read these books that I apologise if I misrepresent them or don't explain them properly. So the first book that I read was Touch by Claire North, which was about this character who had the ability to transfer their consciousness into another person's body when they touch the other person with the body that they're currently inhabiting, if that makes sense. And it follows a story after someone who they borrowed the body of is murdered, and so the main character is trying to figure out why people want them dead so badly. I just thought it was a good book. I'm not normally into thrillers, but because there was a supernatural element, I liked it a bit more. And then the next book I read was The Magic Cottage by James Herbert, and I absolutely loved that book. It's about this couple who move into a cottage which seems sort of magical, and they find out in a way it actually is. And the magic is a little bit more sinister than they originally thought, and I really recommend that book. It's amazing. I'm now currently borrowing The Rats by James Herbert from my boyfriend so that I can read that, because I love this book so much and I want to read more with the same writing style. And then the next book I read was Until Death by Ali Knight, which was a sort of thriller kind of thing, not quite up my street, so I feel like you'd better get a better review from someone who is into that genre. And then I finished Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited to read the rest of the series because there haven't been film adaptations, and so the storylines will actually be new to me. And I'm really enjoying the series so far, and I still can't believe that I didn't pick it up when I was younger. Then I read this absolutely adorable book. It made me cry. It's Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jagdar, and it's about these two girls who have to essentially, as the title suggests, fake date, and then it's fake dating tropes that they will eventually like each other. But I just think it's really wholesome and I really enjoyed the book. It's one of my favourite reads of the month, and it made me cry. Possibly because I was going through some personal stuff at the same time, and I just thought, oh, this is so wholesome, I will cry now. And then I finally, after literally months of putting it on pause, finished Scarlet by Marissa Meyer, and I really enjoyed it. It's the second book in the Lunar Chronicles, so I won't say too much so that I don't spoil the first book for you, but it follows this character called Scarlet, and a sort of antagonist type character called Wolf. And the series sort of follows these retellings of different classical fairy tales. This one is a sort of retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, and of course it features some characters from the first book, Cinder, which was inspired by Cinderella and is one of my favourite books ever. Now, all the rest of these I read when on holiday, so they're not typically my style of read. They were just books that they had at the place where I went. This is, if you're going to judge anyone for these, judge that person. The first one is Prodigy by Michael Stewart, which was a sort of dystopian reality in which your intelligence determines whether you survive in the world, and I really liked it. It's not some of the best dystopians that I've read, because I've read many, but it was good. And then I read The Bees by Laline Paul, and I really enjoyed it. It's a sort of reimagining of human society if we were built sort of in the way that the structure of bee populations were, and it was really interesting. I liked it. It was a really cool way to look at things, and quite clever and unique, I think. And then I read The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and I only read it because everywhere it is seen as this red flag book, and if you relate to it, then it's a red flag, and it wasn't quite as dramatic as people put it out to be. It's the story of this one guy and his life, and I didn't find it very interesting personally, but I can see, if you like that kind of thing, why you might like it. But obviously I'm not into the sort of realistic fiction, I suppose, if that's what it's called. And then I read Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Nietzsche. It's a book with some philosophies by someone that I know nothing about, but it was okay. It was something very different to what I normally would pick up, to be fair. But it was interesting. And then I read Abomination by Robert Swindells, and I'm not going to lie to you, I've completely forgotten what all of this was about, but I remember liking it, so that's a good sign, I suppose. And then I read The Power and the Glory by Graham Greene, which was sort of about society. It followed some characters. I just can't remember because I've read so much since then. Oh, and then I read The Years by Virginia Woolf, which was a book by Virginia Woolf that takes place across many years. I don't know how to describe it without using what's already clued in through the title. And I found that I just read Virginia Woolf to seem cool now, because I need to accept that, as cool as I think it is, Stream of Conscience isn't my style. I'm very much fantasy, floaty, over dramatic than realism. So clearly this person who owns these books was interested in that though, so that's cool. And then I read Eye in the Sky by Philip K. Dick, which was the first book that I've ever read by Philip K. Dick, and he's quite an influential sci-fi writer, and I feel like I should get more into sci-fi because I like classic sci-fi, as in super old Mary Shelley's Frankenstein style sci-fi. So I just thought I'd read that, and it's about this guy who goes to this sort of reality which is a very extreme interpretation of the Old Testament, and there is an eye in the sky, like a giant eyeball. And it was interesting. It was quite odd, I suppose, but not in a bizarre way, if that makes sense. It's not fantastical and over the top. There's just a few little things that were different, and I find it interesting. I feel like I'd read something else by this author. And then last thing I read was The Godfather by Mario Puzo, which was a story about kind of mafias. No, I have not watched the film, and yes, I only read it because so many people say you have to watch the film at some point in your lifetime. So I read the books, now I don't have to watch the film. Like how normal people watch the film of books they're meant to study in school instead of reading the book. That shows how weird I am, doesn't it? But yeah, that's what I read in July. I'm sorry this video is so rushed and so late and so horribly filmed, but it's out there now.